Okay, welcome to another edition of the Deals for Dentists podcast. And today we have Grace Rizza. Did I just say your name right or did I butcher it?
I don't really care how people pronounce it, but usually I say Rizza, but
Okay.
Rizza works. You could say Rizza too, like pizza. That's fine.
Okay, I can remember that.
Yeah,
Rizza. Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. So um, Grace is zooming in from Illinois, correct?
Yep.
All right. And Grace is the founder and CEO of Identity Dental Marketing. She also has a podcast, Dentistry is Growing with Grace. And you can go to Deals for Dentists and find her complimentary marketing planning session and also 20% off custom design websites. And then also, if you mention Deals for Dentists, you can get a further 10% off other marketing discounts. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So Grace, tell me all about Identity Dental Marketing and how you got into helping dentists.
Happy to. Thanks. So we're a full service custom marketing agency, and we are have always been specific to the dental space. So we've always served dentists, always will serve dentists. Um, and yeah, we've been in business since 2009. Majority of what we do is digital. So we develop logos and websites, and then we help to expand the brand through SEO and Google ads and Facebook ads and social media and event marketing. And we're very, very full service. So,
So you've been helping dentists out for about 12 years. How did you first get started in this gig?
yeah. So in 2008, I had my little advertising degree, and the economy wasn't in the best shape during the recession, and I had just put out my resume everywhere that I could, and I got hired to market a 2 location practice in Chicagoland, and I fell in love. It was really fun, being able to triple their new patient flow, cut their ad spend, cut their marketing budget, and thrive in a time where most people were really struggling. We were growing. So I saw that as a bit of a sign that this is something that I could do long term. And being the entrepreneur that I am by spirit, a couple years into that, I founded Identity Dental Marketing.
Okay, so you specifically just help dentists, no other health professions.
No, I mean, if someone refers like their husband or their sister that happens to be um, have some other sort of business, we can help them. But like 95% of our business is dentistry.
Okay. And so what's your process? Do we have like a consultation first and kind of discuss, what my wants and needs are and then you create a custom kind of treatment plan for the office?
Very similar to that. I ask a series of questions. I understand the particular goals. So, a marketing plan for someone who's looking to add 5 more new patients a month is going to be very different than a marketing plan of someone who needs to add 50 or 100 new patients a month. So, we look at what you have already working for you, what you're looking to accomplish, and what is the most efficient way to get from where you are to where you want to be. And that can be very specific to, we want to attract a few more bigger cases, or we need to build up, for hygiene and, our bread and butter dentistry. And everything in between, every specialty, everyone has a different goal. So, yes, we start there and then we provide a custom treatment plan.
Okay, so you said everyone has a different goal, but how many dentists do you find actually have zero goals and zero idea of what's going on? And you come in and they're just a total mess. How often is that? Like 99.9%?
No, I think based on my reputation, I usually connect with people who are fairly savvy, at least in the sense of they know what their new patient flow looks like and what they would like it to be. They may have no idea exactly how to get there or the best methods in terms of marketing, but usually they have some frame of reference as to how is the business doing and how would I like it to be doing.
Mhm.
And that's primarily where we need to start, and then everything else we can work through. So, but yeah, most of the people I talk to they have a pretty good idea of what they want. They just don't know how to get there.
Yeah. So, and every office is different. My office has been around for 40 years. It's been part of the community for a long time. Whereas a practice that is just starting from scratch, their goals are totally different. Or like an office that is trying to get more denture patients or implant patients or more insurance patients or more fee for service patients. Everyone is just so different in what their wants and needs are. So you must take all that into consideration and then formulate a marketing plan from there.
Absolutely. So, a lot of marketing companies out there have their one set way that they're going to market you, and then they take you and they fit you into their plan. Um, so, whether it's $0 for new patients, or that's one marketing pitch, one method, or it's this particular funnel with this particular offer. But I know for my own marketing, I don't want someone to come in and tell me exactly what I can offer and how to offer it. I want someone to learn about, I would want someone to learn about what I'm looking to accomplish and then give me a realistic idea of how to get there. So, yeah, we don't have any long-term contracts. Everything we do is month to month, and we keep our dentists in total ownership of their websites and their brand, so that it's not this situation where if they stop paying us, they lose everything that they've paid for up into that period of time. And so I do a lot of educating, in terms of, this is the questions that you should be asked. These are the questions you should be asking. And this is the way to really hold your marketing company accountable. Because I've seen too much of just like sign here. And then once you sign a contract, you can never get a hold of someone. You don't understand what you're paying for. It's a mess out there.
I think that month to month is so attractive. Signing a year-long or 2-year-long contract it's not a good feeling. Now, does it all start with a good website, a good brand, logo, and then ultimately having good reputation, good reviews? Is that really like the backbone of marketing?
In most instances, it is. It depends. It always depends on what you're looking to accomplish. So, let's say, for instance, you're in an area where you're like one of five dentists. Your, professionalism of your website, it's nice to have, but it may not be as important as it would be if you were in a highly competitive market and you were trying to be on top of Google, leveraging SEO. You may need, not just something that looks pretty, but something that's, built in a way where it's going to rank. So yes, it's your foundation in a lot of ways, um, but it's not always where we start. I mean, like, some people come to us and their website's pretty good and it's ranking pretty well, and that's pretty well handled. It may be something that they want to elevate later on, but it may not make the most sense to start there for that person. So, yes, your brand is important. Most people in dentistry, most dentists skip branding. Like, they just completely glaze over it. Just give me that tooth, that extracted tooth as my logo, put my name on it or something. And I just want people to know I'm a dentist, and let's move on. Let's go to the how. Let's skip anything that is going to require us to dig into what we believe in and who we are. Um, there's this need for the tangible how. And so sometimes when people skip that step, they really miss out on, um, the psychological benefits that come with having a powerful brand. And there's a lot of opportunity then for the people who do want to consider that. There's a lot of opportunity to do that.
Yeah, especially for a new practice, someone starting from scratch. So will you actually help them with the website, the brand, the logo? Do you help develop all that?
We do. We also help with the naming, the tagline, picking the colors, knowing the psychology behind the colors, behind the fonts,
Mhm.
behind the symbols, so that it's not just building what you like. We're also taking into consideration how you will be perceived on a subconscious level by your target audience. So all of these things have to align. And it's really not that complicated. It doesn't take us that long. I always joke that like you're actually the one designing it. We're just facilitating it. But if you do decide to take it in a direction where it's going to hurt you, we're going to tell you. So
Hmm. Now, what about, a practice like mine that's been around a while? Do you actually recommend rebranding every like 10 years or 7 years? What do you recommend there?
usually you should reconsider your brand every 5 to 7 years, or when your message or service offering changes. So
Hmm.
when your unique selling proposition or your service offerings change, you want to go back to that brand to make sure that you're properly representing yourself. What a lot of people don't realize is just because you're going to rebrand or update your brand, it doesn't mean you have to throw away everything. You don't have to let go of all of your colors and fonts. It may just be a slight update to what you already have.
I don't know if you could tell, but this is an $18 haircut, and I go to Supercuts down the street, and they just like totally remodeled inside. And I asked them, why they did that, and they said, oh, we remodel and we rebrand every 7 years. That is like their thing. The colors, they switch it up. Um, so like for example, about 5 years ago, we introduced a membership plan into the office. And before COVID, I was really looking to for that to be our marketing campaign to try to get small business owners that can't afford to offer their employees insurance, or for patients that have retired or lost their job, or just in general for patients that don't have dental insurance. So that was like going to be my kind of rebranding, I guess. And it was more of an internal thing. We just were marketing it internally for our existing patients, tell your friends and family type of thing. I hadn't gotten to the external marketing of that. And then COVID hit and everything stopped. Can you kind of go over like the internal marketing versus external marketing? Because internally we're really pushing it. We had brochures, we added it to our website. We are telling our patients, but we hadn't really marketed it externally yet.
Yeah. So there's this crossover between internal and external, where everything you're doing internally could be marketed externally. So just like, you've got this membership plan that you've brought in, how are you going to inform the community? Maybe that the people that are not already your patients, that this is something that you offer to them, the benefits of this thing. And so sometimes people want to draw like this line down the middle and say this is our internal marketing and this is our external marketing, but really that they're very, very connected, and there's a ton of overlap there. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting the word out. You might do a video, a sponsored video, a social media video, articulating why you implemented this program and the benefits to it. I do want to react to something you said. I cannot tell that that's an $18 haircut. um,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And this is a free, I've been cutting and coloring my own hair for the last year. So I'm probably the worst person to ask about, your if I could tell your haircut, but I think it looks good. But we're a do-it-yourself
Uh,
haircutting family, which is which is dangerous.
yeah, I'm a
But
Supercuts guy, so
yeah,
they have a cool app I could just schedule on the phone, so I like that.
the
Um,
convenience thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, where was I? You threw me off with the
I
haircut.
did. Yeah, I had to
Yeah.
respond to that. I couldn't leave it
So,
hanging.
so how often, do you go into an office and first of all, there isn't a plan or a goal, or let's say my plan is I want to get new patients, new patients, new patients, which I feel like can be a drug for dentists. Always wanting that new patient. How many times do you get in there and analyze the office and find out that it's not a new patient problem? It's reactivation, keeping their patients active, and too many patients leaving the back door problem.
Well, it would be just like you meeting a patient and them saying that they just have like bad genes and that's why their teeth are always decaying. It's like, for me, I can tell kind of at a glance if you've been established for 10 years, and you've got one doctor that works clinically 4 days a week, I know how many new patients you should need. So when you tell me you need 100, I know there's a problem.
Mhm.
I don't really need to do that much digging because this is all I do all day long. So I know immediately, I called and someone went, dental office, when she picked up the phone.
Mhm.
And then she didn't know who I was or that I had a meeting with you. And then you were 10 minutes late for our call. And then you need more new patients than maybe what you quote unquote should need for the number of providers, for full-time hours, for the level of how established your business is. So I'm just a very direct and honest person. I'll ask, how's your retention? And usually you can hear if people know that it's a problem or that it might be a problem, they'll say, well, I don't know. I think it's pretty good. I hear a lot of I think statements when
Mhm.
I'm doing
Mhm.
marketing planning sessions. I think it's pretty good here. And so we do have, recommendations, people that they can work with to analyze that. I don't think marketing should just be like the eternal band-aid for the bullet wound that is, that open back door in the practice.
Yeah, and you know what you mentioned about the that answering the phone. In the end, you could have the greatest marketing campaign out there, but if the front desk isn't answering the phones properly or on board or knows about your marketing efforts, then it's not gonna be, you're not gonna get the return on investment. So, how important is that staff onboarding and properly answering the phone?
Yeah, so there's like three different levels of phone skills in my mind. There's that first, the lowest level, which is someone who secretly doesn't want more new patients. And these are the worst because this could be your daughter or your wife who thinks you work too much. And I've seen this, like actual family members in the practice. And they think we're just fine with 10 more new patients a month and the doctor wants 20. So they're kind of like not really letting us work harder than we have to. I've seen this intentional holding back of new patients thing, and it's heartbreaking to see it. And there's very little we can do when that's the case because you're not going to come between a husband and a wife or a father and a daughter, but you can sense it when it's happening. You can even hear it on the phone. We can record calls and we can hear it. And if they don't want to know, they're not going to know. So there's that. Um, that's that happens more than people realize, unfortunately, that there's someone who just does not want to grow. Then there's that middle tier where, like, I want to grow, but really I'm too busy to stop what I'm doing and take this new patient phone call. So I'm just going to give them the answers to their questions and I'm going to move on with my day. And I'm not going to be responsible for in the rest of the world, we'd call it a close rate, but I'm not going to be responsible for my numbers because there are no numbers. No one's actually tracking me. I'm the manager, so I can do no wrong. And they're trying, but they get one difficult question and they're not trying. Or they put a new patient on hold for 5 or 10 minutes and there goes the lead. So there's that middle ground. And I think majority of people fall into the middle ground. And then there's the well-trained, ready to convert employee who knows the business inside and out, who is committed to the business and knows that their numbers are going to be looked at and really wants to see the team hit their goals. If this person's incentivized by new patient numbers, then usually they're going to have more of a reason to take their time with these calls.
How do you track that accountability? So say you have what I call it an assassin. They get those bodies in the chair. How do you track that? What's your way about going about that? Is it through recording phone calls?
Yeah, so call recording will only give you so much information. It'll tell you like a call volume, but it's never going to be perfect. A lot of marketing companies use call volume in a very sneaky way, in a deceptive way. So you have to be very careful about that. There are some very well-known big companies that will take their tracking and put it on your Google listing, on your website, and make it look like anyone who called you, anyone who looked you up online is a new patient. And a lot of times they do this because they run a pay per lead model. and they don't really have to do any marketing to get paid when they do this. So be careful about that. But yes, if you do use a phone number for tracking, make sure you own the phone number. So if you cancel with said company, that phone number isn't given to your competitor, and your patients have it saved in their phones. It's important. Own the number, and then put a different number on your website that says new patient number, and then you
Mhm.
have the office number. So this is a number just for new patients. Or, you have that option where you call in. If you're a new patient, press 1. If you're an existing
Mhm.
patient, press 2, and that can track it too. So, in addition to that, you want to make sure that every single new patient, when they're getting put into the system, has a referral source. Of course, this is only going to record the ones that actually, you know, schedule, but the ones who don't schedule, I would start in your office a new patient phone log so that every call that comes in from a new patient is logged, and what they ask is logged as well. So if I'm a new patient and I'm calling and I'm like, do you take XYZ insurance? And, you know, person on the phone says, no. The doctor needs to be able to see how many people are calling for this one particular insurance. How else do you make that decision of whether it's a plan you should be considering joining or not? So the more data you have, the better. And these are really simple systems. Every new patient that calls in, they get logged, and the notes as to whether they got scheduled or not get logged. And at the end of the month, we see how many new patient calls did we have, and what were their referral sources? How did they hear about us? Did they schedule? Did they not? So this is important too, because you could have a marketing company that's running a super cheap, like buy now, free XYZ type of ad, and the patient calls in and they want their free whatever, but they don't want to actually schedule for a paid appointment. And so you may have 20 or 30 like new patient appointments, but they're not going anywhere. So all of this information is important.
How do you actually log it? So let's say you have that tree set up where they press 1 for new patients. Is it just a matter of that staff member um, entering that information into the appointment notes in Dentrix, which we have, or is it on a separate piece of paper?
Yeah, I would do a spreadsheet, and part of what dentists really need to embrace is this monthly reporting and what should be reported on a monthly basis. So if you simply take your monthly reporting and just move it up a notch, you're going to see a whole different experience. So let's say you've got your new patient number on the website. That's going to give you a number, like a concrete number, how many calls came in through that number. Now you can cross check that to your office manager is going to give you a report every month. This is the number of new patient calls. This is of those calls who scheduled, of those who showed up, and this is their referral sources. So you want to like break it down. This is how I function anyways. I like to see the meaningful information boiled all the way down to, the numbers. Um, and once you build that into your processes, then they know once a month that this is what they're accountable for. Now, if you get a report back and it says you had 5 new patient inquiries, but your phone number on your website shows 50 calls, you're not getting the whole picture. So this is
Mhm.
when you need to start saying, okay, person A is in charge of answering the phone and logging this and whatever. And maybe person B is the person who reports on the phone call number, so that
Mhm.
we've got some way to cross check. But yeah,
Okay.
a monthly audit is really super helpful.
Okay. Now is Google, SEO and Facebook, are they, really the most important forms of marketing right now? What about, like, TikTok and Instagram and some of these other platforms? Are Google and Facebook still the most important?
Yeah, so I consider Instagram lumped in with Facebook.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's opportunity on TikTok for the right people right now. It's still kind of early adoption with TikTok. Um, it's very different than what you get on Facebook and Instagram right now, because it is so entertainment based. But I think that will, just like Facebook started with college students, that will expand beyond the entertainment to be more educational, more thought leader based. So there's definitely opportunity there. There's opportunity everywhere. And I think where people go wrong is they try to like dominate on every platform, and they end up just going, oh, forget it. It's just too much, like
Yeah.
too much. I would rather someone go, okay, we're going to crush it on Facebook, and and that'll spill over into our Instagram presence, but we're going to really focus on generating leads here, or wherever it may be. But what people get overwhelmed and then they do nothing. So
It probably must depend so much on, what type of practice you are, whether you're urban, suburban, rural. Because I know where we are, Yelp is not a big player, but in other, I think downtown Boston, it's a major player.
in
For us,
California too. In California,
California,
yeah.
yep, I heard it's huge. So for us, we focus on Google and our reviews, Facebook. And now with these platforms, is comments and engagement, is that becoming the most important thing for trying to get patients or anyone to, you put a post on, ideally it's something interesting, not like an article about brushing your teeth, but it'll be something about like some fun thing we did with the staff or like my family. Is it to try to get that engagement and people commenting and liking?
It's helpful when people like you, for sure. But some people are not comfortable putting themselves out there. And so they're always dabbling and they're never really seeing a return on investment. So they end up just wasting a lot of time. And then you say, okay, that's great. Like you took this Facebook course on how to do this thing. You took this other like viral course on how to be an instant sensation. And now you're trying to implement these things on a daily basis. But how many new patients have you actually seen from this with your money and time investment? And usually it's like, well, none. And you're like, okay, so how is that working for you? Well, it's not. And so I think it's important that people realize social media is still a media. It's still a pay to play platform. And so if you take the time to build the thoughtful ad, just like you would put an ad on a TV channel however many years ago, you have the same opportunity. You have an audience. And so you need to get them to stop scrolling and to look at what you're doing. So you need to be able to get their attention. You need to connect with them. Um, there's just these different facets of it. And what people don't realize, they use things like Facebook or Instagram personally, and then they apply that to their business page, and they're totally different animals. It's like apples and oranges, so you've got to look at it for what it is, know the capabilities, and then stop being so cheap. Like, that's so rude to say, but it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants like this free exposure, and it's so much cheaper to pay for it. They waste so much time, and your time is chargeable. It's like, it's valuable. It's even more valuable than your money. They waste so much time trying to crack the code and get insta famous when they could just run an ad and pay for the exposure. And it's simple, but you have people making a great deal of money on these promises where you can get rich for free if you just take my course. And so there's a incentive for marketing people to make it more complicated than it is, because they can charge for that information.
So do you recommend boosting Facebook posts and trying to reach more people, locally?
Yeah, boosts are good. I definitely, if you're someone who's outspoken and you want to get a return from an organic post, do video. Start doing a weekly video. If you can, go live, get comfortable just talking. When you do that, you can generate such a return because people can connect with you. They can trust you. They feel like they know you. And by the time they pick up the phone to call you, there's some trust there already. You don't have to convince them as much. So yeah, if you're going to go the organic social media route on your own, like do it yourself, go video. Now, if you're really super awkward on video, don't go video. Like, we'll talk about it. We'll give you options. So it just depends on who you are.
what if you think you're really good on video, but you're really awkward, and someone needs to tell you to just not do it? You got to have that, you can't have yes people all around you.
I only had that once. I only had that once. Oh, it was so bad. You're probably not as bad as you think. People are typically more critical on themselves than
Yeah.
they should be. And the more you do it, the more you'll get comfortable with it. So I don't want to put the rules or my advice around that one super awkward person that shouldn't have done it. 99.9% of the population is should be doing, I shouldn't say should be doing. If you feel comfortable doing it, you should do it. And if you feel a
Yeah.
little uncomfortable doing it, push through that, get comfortable doing it. Then there's that subset of the population. They know it. They already know it's not for them. They
Mhm.
know that it's not for them. They know they're awkward, and call in some support, because you could do one video photo session a year with us. This is one of our services too. And you could have enough content to leverage, for the year, if this is something that you don't want to do all the time.
Yeah.
So that's why you've got to be able to pick the marketing methods that fit you and your goals and your personality, instead of being kind of like pushed into this one size fits all approach.
So that's I want to make an interesting segue here. What you just said there, my personality, my approach, does that also go into my leadership abilities and how I can run a business and be a practice leader? Because I find that to be such an important factor in running a dental business is you have to be a good leader. And I did not start out that way. It took me some time, and I'm still, not there, but um, it starts from the top. And if you want a good culture in the office, it does start from the top, and you got to you got to become, to set a great culture, you got to be a good leader. But what about dentists out there that are awkward in front of people? They're introverts. I'm an introvert myself, but to get up in front of the staff and have that office meeting, and what do you recommend for those dentists out there to just kind of push through it and keep at it? Or
I love this question so much. This was a challenge for me, especially in the beginning of my career, because I started the company when I was 24 and I had only worked somewhere for 2 years. It's not like I had any level of corporate experience whatsoever. So I went from a dental environment to owning a marketing agency, and it was like being thrown into cold water as a leader. And I think one of the biggest problems we make as leaders is we assume everyone is like us. We think that because we don't need someone to tell us what time to be at work, that nobody else needs that structure or accountability. And I see, especially with small business owners, and I'll put myself in that category, that we want other people to just take full responsibility. And the biggest missing piece in most businesses is accountability. It's
Mhm.
not it's not even training. It's like, I've told you 100 times how to do this thing. Why aren't you just doing it? Well, no one's really checking if I'm doing it. So if a tree falls and no one hears it, did it really fall?
Mhm.
It's like people need accountability. And I think, kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with your reports, your monthly reports, your numbers. Having those systems in place and holding people accountable is the piece that's going to make the other part much easier. So if you're now looking at how do I lead this meeting, it's much easier knowing that everyone knows what's expected of them and they're doing it. Then the meetings aren't stressful at all, because you're like, great job, team. Everyone did what they were supposed to do last week. Here are a few things we can tweak moving forward. And then it becomes easy. So I think what a lot of dental owner leaders are missing is accountability, and then everything else topples because that one piece is gone. And again, people make this super complicated. They make a lot of money on making this super complicated, but if they just fix that one piece, then everything follows. So
Now, do you recommend doing this through one-on-one meetings with the staff members every month, and kind of sitting down with them and going through their numbers, or reviewing expectations and job descriptions and accountability? What do you recommend there?
one-on-one meetings I would do more like quarterly or even twice a
Mhm.
year. The accountability piece has to happen on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. It's like, this is what you do when you set up a room. This is what you do when you open in the morning. Like, this is just procedural stuff.
Mhm.
And then monthly, I like to look back at numbers, and even weekly looking back at numbers with certain things. Um, I'm actually in the process of developing a solution for this problem in the dental space, and it's not ready yet. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but that piece, that one on one piece, I don't think that's really the accountability piece. I think that's the conversation of overall performance. Like, how consistent are you with meeting your numbers, with attendance, with XYZ? And I think quarterly is more appropriate for that.
Okay. And what about a dentist? They're trying to become that leader. How important is confidence and having that confidence in their leadership abilities? And kind of like when I walk into a room now with a patient, I'm very confident. Whereas when I first got out as an associate, I was 29. I looked like I was 12 and was not confident. And I didn't own the room. Now when I walk in, I'm much more confident and I kind of own the room. Um, what do you say to those dentists that are not quite, especially the young ones, they're not quite confident, they're not quite there yet? Is it, again, just kind of keep at it and kind of get comfortable in your own skin, become confident within?
So I actually train my team on this in their onboarding process, because a lack of confidence in communication is detrimental to your entire life. Everything you do in your life. I mean, you could order a cheeseburger and they're going to be like, "Do you really want the cheeseburger?" Like, they're not going to know what you're really asking, because you're saying one thing, but your vocal tone is saying something else. Like, you're asking a question. So, one of the things I do is I talk about, especially with women, I talk about vocal tone. And when I talk to you like this, and when I end my sentence like this, I'm making a statement. But when I talk like this, I sound like I'm asking a question. And women confuse sounding nice with being confident. And you've got to be able to strike that balance of, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you. New patient on the phone. I know this is the best place for you. I'm going to help you understand why. Versus, okay, I'd be happy to help you with that. We just do this thing where we tense up, our vocal cords, get stretched, and our voice comes out like Mickey Mouse, and no one takes us seriously. So sometimes it's a matter of just slowing down and being aware of our vocal tone. If you're presenting something to your team that you're not 100% certain on, but you want to implement it and try it, don't ask for everybody's input. Don't walk into the room and say, "Hey guys, let's discuss this new marketing campaign that only I was a part of the meeting and only I know that it's going to benefit us, but I'm going to ask for every single person's approval before I invest my money in something that I believe is going to help us." So I guess it's people proving, it's people pleasing, and it's vocal tone. If you can fix
Mhm.
those two things, people pleasing in the mind and the vocal tone in the voice, then those two things alone will have you communicating with confidence.
And when you do that, you communicate with confidence and you've set expectations. It creates so much less stress for the dentist. And when things are in place and they're automatic and there's expectations and job descriptions and accountability, it makes your life so much easier and less stressful and enjoyable to go into work every day. So I think that's some really great advice. Um, what
Thank
I
you.
wanted to ask you personally is about being an entrepreneur and the work-life balance, because I know you have a family. Um, how do you manage that? Let's say I'm a young dentist, I have kids, I just opened a practice, I'm grinding away to try to build this practice. How do you kind of manage all your time? What do you recommend for those young dentists out there?
It's different for me now than it was even 5 years, 6 years ago. I remember when I was pregnant with my eldest, she just turned 7, that I had this so much overwhelming pressure to be everything to everyone. I was new in the employer realm, so I was still building my confidence there. And I had all these clients that I worked so hard to gain and to win over. And I was so afraid that when I told them that I was expecting that they were going to fire me, that they were going to think that I was no longer going to be available to them. And the most challenging thing, and I don't want to be like, woe is me, because I really don't feel that way. But at the time I did, I was so angry that I had worked so hard to build my business from scratch. And my husband was in like a management position, and he would tell clients all day long, we're expecting our first, and they would just say congratulations. Anytime I said it, I had to give this big long explanation. I'm not quitting. I'm not, I may be out for a couple weeks with a newborn, but I will be here. And I remember I was delivering my daughter, and I had just received an epidural, and I was like, I better catch up on some emails because I don't know how long it's going to be between people hearing from me. And so it created so much unnecessary stress I created for myself. And I gave way too much weight to the business. I gave way too much to the business. Um, but I also did this thing where every few months, and I can do this, dentists can't do this, but every few months I left with my family, and I would take a week or 2 weeks, and I still worked. I was still working, but I would go somewhere with my family, and maybe I would take a Friday off or a Monday off. So, and even now, sometimes I'll alternate heavy packed weeks and light weeks. So I'll have my heavy weeks, and then I'll alternate that with a lighter week to keep my home in shape where I can do more things around the house and have more time with the kids. And I think that alternation has helped me strike like a perfect balance. So if I were to equate this for a dentist, I would say maybe you're wanting to add more time. Maybe you add every other Friday, but then every other Wednesday and Friday you take off. So you still have that availability for the patient base, but you just have your heavy week and then you have your light week. So you alternate having, longer weekends or more time off. Mentally, that's been really good for me. So, but
I
really,
think that's
at the
great.
end of the day, like, don't feel bad about it. Like, don't beat yourself up because you had to work last weekend. Like, that's part of
Mhm.
being a business owner, is sometimes you have to roll your sleeves up and you have to work through the weekend when the rest of the world doesn't. That's why you get paid more than the rest of the world. And then there's going to be another weekend where you take an extra day off that you otherwise wouldn't have had. So be flexible with yourself, be forgiving, do what you need to do in the moment. But also be creative about how you make time for your family, because that's important.
That's such great advice, because that's, a way to avoid burnout as well. I mean, to mix up the schedule, take some long weekends, I maybe do 5 days one week and then 3 days the next week. But, I call that mental payment. You may not be getting, production in the office, but sometimes you just need that break mentally. So I think that's awesome advice.
And
Um,
you will get the payment, you will get a return on investment from that, because it's weird. It's like when you get that break is when you get your best ideas, or
mhm.
when you even have the time to implement those out of the box things, is when you've had that time, you know, away from clinical.
Or you're just more re-energized when you get back and you're ready to produce and work. So I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of benefits to that. So before we wrap things up, are you still out there lecturing? Do you have any workshops, or are you actually in person and lecturing? Or is it all online?
I am lecturing. Most of what I'm doing right now is online, and most of the content that I'm sharing is on a regular basis and in bite-sized chunks. So I would say
Mhm.
you could find it in, we've got a Facebook group called Dentistry's Growing with Grace, and I share a lot of great information in there. So I would recommend joining that. And then I promote my upcoming speaking in that group as well.
Okay, awesome. Again, Grace Rizza, the Rizza, like pizza.
Rizza, as long as you spell it right, you'll find me.
Okay, gotcha. Rizza. Um, Again, Grace's podcast, Dentistry is Growing with Grace. She's the founder and CEO of Identity Dental Marketing. And on Deals for Dentists, she's offering a complimentary marketing planning session and also 20% off custom design websites. And also, if you mention Deals for Dentists, you'll get a further 10% off other marketing discounts. So Grace, great stuff today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, let's be in touch.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.